Notre Dame just bullied NC State 36-7, and while the scoreboard looks great, this game told us a lot more than that. The defense is starting to look like a college football playoff level unit. The offense left way too much meat on the bone, and special teams came up big once again. Let's break it all down. Sunday Night Live starts now.
You are Locked On Irish, your daily podcast on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, and welcome in to Locked On Irish, your daily home for Notre Dame football. I'm Tyler Wojciak, and I'm the host. I'm a Notre Dame alum, producer at Fox Sports, and I've been covering the Irish since 2020. I'm thrilled to have you here with me on another edition of Sunday Night Live to react to Notre Dame's 36-7 win over NC State. It is Sunday, October 12th, or if you're tuning in on Monday morning, thank you for making this your first watch or listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. And please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow the show for free wherever you get your podcasts. Now, let's dive in. Notre Dame took down NC State by a final score of 36-7 in a game that was dominant in some areas, I think that's safe to say, and flat out frustrating in others. And tonight, we're going to get into three things. Another smothering effort from the Notre Dame defense, a roller coaster day on offense with too many missed chances, and a big positive step from special teams. And then we're going to get into your questions in the chat at the end. Thank you for everyone who's joined in. We're already getting some comments. Devin Whitaker says, go Irish. Irish Eyes is ready. He says, BSC. I hear you, man. We are going to talk a lot about USC on the show this week, but we're going to give NC State its due. And here we go. Let's go. Sunday Night Live. So I'm glad we've got plenty of people tuning in. We're going to have more joining. And like I said, send in your questions. We're going to get to those in segment 3. But the story of this game is the Notre Dame defense in a good way, right? Because the story of the Texas A&M game was also the Notre Dame defense, but it was not nearly as positive. This is the third straight elite performance from the Notre Dame defense. Really, it's elite what they are doing. They held NC State to just 7 points in less than 250 yards of total offense. And this is a good offense. They have talented players like Terrell Anderson, like Hollywood Smothers, and even C.J. Bailey, who didn't have his best game. Like, Notre Dame's defense is a big reason why he did not perform up to the level that he had played all season long. Like, coming into this game, C.J. Bailey was completing 74% of his passes. It was top 10 in the entire country. He completed just 56 of his passes against the Notre Dame defense. And sure, there were some misses that were pretty much on him, but Notre Dame's defense was getting pressure on him most of the game, and I think that rattled him, and I think that's what led to some of those misses. And going into this game, I said the biggest key for the Notre Dame defense was they had to keep Hollywood Smothers in check. That is the NC State running back, and they did more than that. They held Smothers to just 3.8 yards per carry and 5.3 yards per reception when they try to get him involved in the passing game. His longest play of the entire game was a 10-yard run. And this was one of the most explosive players in the entire country. According to Pro Football Focus, Smothers forced just one missed tackle in the entire game. He had forced 32 missed tackles in the 6 game prior, and he had 472 yards after contact, but credit to all the guys in the Notre Dame defense. When they had a chance to wrap him up, they did it. Sometimes it was an open field tackle, like when Drake Bowen had to get him, when they tried to get him on the outside, Drake Bowen just came through with a great tackle, but a lot of it was gang tackling by everyone on the Notre Dame defense. It was clear that they were prioritizing stopping him, and they did great all game long. The tackling and the physicality were elite. So Pro Football Focus credits Notre Dame with 10 missed tackles in this game. It didn't seem like that many live. It didn't seem like tackling was a big issue for the Notre Dame defense, not just on Hollywood Smothers, but all the different guys that they had. But Notre Dame's defense came through, and like, this is the defense that we've been waiting to see. They're physical, they're fast, and they're playing with clarity and violence like Marcus Freeman likes to stress. And it wasn't just Drake Bowen. Tay Johnson had some violent hits again, KVA as well. I love this new identity of Kingston Viliama-Asa. He showed up to the game looking sharp. He had a cowboy hat on, had the grills on, and he just has a mean streak to his game now that I don't really remember him having as a true freshman. He loves to talk some trash. We always knew that Drake Bowen likes to talk some trash, and he was doing it a lot in this game, and for a good reason. Like, he led the team in tackles with 7, tied with Tay Johnson, but I'm seeing it a lot more out of KVA. And then when he had that interception late in the game, first of all, great athletic play by him to keep his feet in bounds and then get a return. And then he did the sexy Dexy Lance, which is a shout out to Dexter Lawrence, the big defensive tackle for the New York Giants. So I love his game. I love his attitude. And this whole Notre Dame defense just has a different edge to them that they didn't have at the beginning of the year. Like, they were playing on their heels. They were not playing fast. And offenses were taking it to them, but now Notre Dame is taking it to opposing offenses. They were particularly good on the money downs. NC State had some success on third down in the first half. A couple of them were just really good plays. Like when they ran that corner route, it was a great throw and a great catch by NC State. And it was over Dallas Golden, who didn't have the best of days. Obviously, he gave up the one touchdown in this game, but sometimes they're just going to make good plays. And NC State did that. But still, Notre Dame held them to 5 and 16 on third down and 1 of 3 on fourth down. It honestly should have been 4 of 16 on third down, but the refs gifted them one conversion on a ball that clearly hit the ground. That was probably the most egregious replay review I've ever seen. And I was talking to my buddy Tommy Waytula, who I was watching the game with. I was like, the longer this review goes, the more certain I am that they're going to say this call is upheld, even though it is clearly an incomplete pass. And what do you know? They called it incomplete. And here's a conspiracy for you. So I love what the Notre Dame Stadium was doing. The Notre Dame Stadium PA, or I guess whoever's handling the music in this game, I love what they've been doing where like they play the Jeopardy music when they're doing the review and it's going way too long, and they played Hallelujah when Notre Dame finally had a call go in their favor. But I wonder if the officials get pissed off about that. I'm not saying that they decided to uphold the call only because of the Jeopardy music and they thought that Notre Dame was trying to give them a hard time, but it's something to think about because the officiating has just been a disgrace. And honestly, it could go across all levels of college football. If you watch that Georgia-Auburn game, I mean, that was an absolute mess of officiating. But I don't want to spend too much time on that because I remember I led the Boise State show on officiating, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. But I think we all know that fourth down call in particular was egregious. Notre Dame should have held NC State to 4 of 16 on third down. They get gifted one, but still, that's a really incredible performance by the Notre Dame defense on the money downs. They also won the turnover battle 3-1. And all of those interceptions happened in the second half when NC State was just trying to make some plays downfield. But credit to the Notre Dame defense in the secondary in particular for coming up with some plays. Even though the Adon Schuler interception was thrown right to him, I'm sure you or I could have made that play in that situation. He still had a great return. I thought he was going to house it. He gets tripped up pretty close to the end zone, but good play by the Notre Dame defense there. There was nowhere for C.J. Bailey to go with the ball, and then he just ended up throwing it right at number 8, right there in his numbers. Then Kingsley Mbeleamoasa made that great interception that I was referring to earlier. And good for Carson Hobbs, man. He comes up with the third and final interception of the game. It was fourth down, so NC State was just throwing up because they needed a play there. But Carson Hobbs got benched this season. He came out, he played a lot of significant minutes against Miami and Texas A&M, Notre Dame's 2 biggest opponents to start the year. And then he got benched for Dallas Golden because he just was not performing well. And not only did he get benched, he was basically out of the rotation for a few games. But now that Devontae Smith is hurt again, Carson Hobbs gets another opportunity in there, coming in for Dallas Golden, and he made a play. And Marcus Freeman has been complimentary of his attitude and said, even though he's gotten benched and he's obviously very disappointed by it, he continues to work. So credit to him for making a play there and getting a big-time interception. I'm sure that's going to be huge for his confidence going forward. And as a whole, the Notre Dame defense is creating all sorts of havoc. They only forced 1 turnover in the first 2 games. And obviously, part of that has to do with playing much better competition, but they've been creating all kind of havoc lately. Our guy, Greg Famung from Irish Sports Daily, tweeted this out. In Notre Dame's last 35 defensive series, they have allowed just 4 touchdowns and have registered 9 interceptions. So they have 5 more interceptions than touchdowns allowed in the past 35 defensive series, and that is really, really good. And a big reason why is because Notre Dame has been able to generate pressure way more frequently than they did to start the year. And we saw them even bring defensive backs in blitz packages, which is something they did not do at the start of the season. And Jalen Stroman, the safety, had a big sack on third down. Great use of his skill set because even though he's not the best in coverage, he's really good at getting after the passer and being an enforcer in the run game. And Bailey had 38 dropbacks in this game. Notre Dame blitzed 17 times on those 38 dropbacks, and they generated pressure on 13 of them. When they got pressure, it worked. Bailey completed just 3 passes, and he threw 3 interceptions. So he completed as many passes to the Notre Dame defense as he did to his own team. And when he did complete passes to his own team, Those passes only went for a combined 26 yards, and Adon Schuler had more than that on his one interception return going the other way. So Chris Ash and the entire defensive staff deserve a ton of credit for the way that they have turned things around since the first half against Purdue. We were all very vocal in our criticisms of Chris Ash, and I would say deservedly so, but the way that this group has turned things around in season is really impressive, and yes, part of that has to do with competition, but Arkansas has really talented players, and so does NC State, at least on offense. And the Razorbacks just put up 31 points yesterday on Tennessee, and they gave the Volunteers everything that they could handle. And C.J. Bailey is a talented quarterback. He's huge. Hollywood Smothers is a talented running back, and Notre Dame just flat out dominated these guys all game long. Yeah, they had that bad play in the first half when Dallas Golden just got beat. I was pretty frustrated because I felt like that was a great opportunity for a shot play, and Notre Dame probably should have seen that coming. They didn't. And credit to NC State, they saw Dallas Golden, the true freshman, on an island, attacked him with a double move, and it worked. But the Notre Dame defense as a whole has allowed just 27 points in the last 3 games. They have not allowed a touchdown in the second half since Purdue scored one in garbage time against Notre Dame's backup defense. In these past couple weeks, and really the past 3 weeks, I should say, are proof that Notre Dame can win with their defense, even though they didn't need their defense to carry them against Arkansas because the offense was scoring at will. And we're going to find out just how good this unit is next week against USC. That's one of the most explosive, just powerful offenses in the entire country. They put up 31 points on Michigan last night. Probably could have put up a lot more. They had a interception in the red zone and left some points on the board as well. But we knew that this game would be a big test for the Notre Dame defense. They passed it with flying colors. Before we move on to the offense, I want to give just some shout-outs to some guys who really stood out on defense. We talked about Tay Johnson. We talked about Drake Bowen. But Leonard Moore and Christian Gray were locking up guys in coverage all night long. KVA also had 6 tackles in addition to his interception. Boubacar Traore, honestly a mistake by me to not mention him by now. He had 2 sacks in this game. He was in the backfield all night, and he matched C.J. Bailey's athleticism. When he tried to roll out, Boubacar Traore was there, but he wasn't the only edge guy getting out there. Junior Tuihalamaka had 2 back-to-back plays that were really impressive. He had a tackle for loss, and then he generated a holding call, and we're starting to see some serious momentum on the interior. It's been a big problem for the defense so far this year, but we're starting to see some strides. In particular, Elijah Hughes, he came up big with a sack, and Jared Dawson. Like, both of those guys had really good games. Gabriel Rubio continues to be an enforcer in the run game, and that has been a clear weakness of the Notre Dame defense. But if Gabriel Rubio continues to improve, if Elijah Hughes continues to make these kinds of plays, and then Jared Dawson is just that steady veteran presence, then this is going to be a complete defense. Notre Dame has a bunch of dudes on defense making plays, and this is what we've been hoping to see all season long, and we're starting to see it. If they continue to play like this week to week, they should feel very confident going forward, especially going against USC, their biggest and last big test for that Notre Dame defense all season, and it's going to be really exciting to watch. It's going to be a big test for this unit, but I feel a lot better about what they're going to do now than I did after the Texas A&M game. So the defense gave Notre Dame a win, but let's be honest, the offense made this game a lot harder than it needed to be, and we're going to break down the highs and lows from the offense coming right up. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is CJ Carr's touchdown pass to KK Smith to put the Irish up 17-7 in the third quarter. The team needed a spark on offense, and CJ Carr delivered with a strike to KK Smith in the end zone for Smith's first career touchdown. It was a great throw, and it was a great catch that put the Irish up 2 scores, and the team kept their foot on the gas by scoring 19 more points to run away from the Wolfpack and win 36-7. That's what keeps fans and players alike moving forward, always chasing the next great moment. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda. Move and be moved. All right, let's check in on the chat real quick before we talk about the Notre Dame offense. We got Robert K. Notre Dame 7.5 faves against USC. I saw that, and I think the line actually opened at 9. It's come down a little bit. Bo N.D. Johnson smothered Bailey and Smothers. That they did, man. That they did. Newt Rockney says Bill Belichick to the state pen. I don't really see that happening, but yes, Penn State actually fired James Franklin today. I mean, I feel like the writing was on the wall. I was pretty surprised that they did it in season, But look, man, their team is a disaster right now. They also lost Drew Aller for the season. So things are not looking great for them. We got another one from Newt Rockney. Minshew or Buckner should be put on third and short running or RPO plays. Look, Tyler Buckner looked pretty good on that fake punt, and we've seen him have success running the ball as a quarterback before. But that is a great segue into our offense. Because if we're going to talk about the way that the defense has been trending up, which they clearly have been, we also have to talk about a frustrating trend for the Notre Dame offense. They are just not capitalizing on drives because they sputter in short yardage situations, and when they sputter, when they get into the red zone. And I wouldn't go so far to say that the offense is trending down or they're moving backwards or anything like that. I just think that they're stuck in neutral. They have a clear weakness on offense, and they haven't been able to fix it. They still finished with 487 total yards, including 342 yards passing from C.J. Carr, his second most in a Notre Dame uniform. And the offense can clearly be explosive. We saw that early on in the game when Will Pauling had that 33-yard catch when he was just wide open on that corner route. I don't know if NC State just forgot to cover him, but it was a reminder that their execution is not matching their talent yet. There is no reason a Notre Dame team that has Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price and a big tight end like Eli Raridan and a really good slot receiver like Will Pauling and a big body wide receiver like Malachi Fields. There is no reason that that group with that kind of talent can be so ineffective on third and short and fourth and short. But unfortunately, that has been the reality for this Notre Dame team. Last year, they had a get-out-of-jail-free card with Riley Leonard. They would just say, we're going to run quarterback power on third and 2 or fourth and 2 or anything less than that, and we don't care if you know that it's coming because we are going to convert it because they were strong in the interior. They had a great lead blocker more often than not when it was Jeremiah Love going into the hole, leading the way for Riley Leonard, and Riley Leonard was so big, he was so strong, and just had a knack for contorting his body in a way that he could find any little crease and keep moving that ball forward so that Notre Dame could move the chains. And they've tried different things so far this season. Obviously, they tried the Wildcat against Texas A&M. They tried it against Boise State. They had some success with it. They did come up with a huge fourth down conversion using the Wildcat against Texas A&M, but there have been a bunch of instances when it didn't work. They didn't run the Wildcat in this game, but whatever they were running wasn't working either. And I think the play calling was bad, especially on that 4th and inches when they tried to run that rollout play to Will Pauling. NC State had that red all over. They were ready for that play. And I don't know if C.J. Carr was going to try to throw it back to Jordan Faison. They had that covered up too, but that was not a good play call. And then later on, they had a 4th and 3. They should have been kicking a field goal in that situation, but Marcus Freeman decided to be aggressive, and they tried to run a play to Malachi Fields, but they had that double covered as well. So it's the play calling, it's the execution, it's everything. They finished 1 of 3 on 4th down conversions, but the one was a fake punt when Notre Dame desperately needed a spark because the offense had just sort of stalled coming out of the second half. But it wasn't just the 4th down conversions too. Jadarian Price had a fumble near the goal line. That is now 2 fumbles on the year for Jadarian Price right by the goal line. That can't happen. And now he has a fumbling problem. And it's something that Notre Dame is going to have to address. His first fumble happened against Miami, and C.J. Carr was there to pick it up. This time, it happened right away, and that just can't happen from your star running back. It was not the best game for Jadarian Price. He did finish with 15 carries for 66 yards. They got him more involved in the running game. It wasn't as big of a disparity between carries. Like Love had 18, Price had 15, but he wasn't getting really anything going. He did have a long run that was called back because of a holding, I believe, but he also had his own holding in pass protection where he just got flat out beat and then ripped the guy down and negated a big play for the Notre Dame offense. So they've got to get that cleaned up, and I feel like a big reason why they were struggling on these short yardage situations was the offensive line did not have their best game. Now, granted, they did lose their center, Ashton Craig, about halfway through. He walked off the field with an apparent leg injury, but they did show him on the sideline during the games, and I don't know if it was just me, but it looked like he was fine. It looked like he was walking around without a limp, so we're going to find out on Monday what his status is going to be for USC, but that's obviously pretty concerning. They bring in Joe Otting, who I thought did well, but overall, it was just not a great performance from the offensive line. It didn't seem like the holes were there. Notre Dame averaged just 3.9 yards per carry in this game, and I thought they'd be able to run all over NC State. Now, you got to give them some credit, too. They stacked the box. They were trying to take away the run game, and Notre Dame was like, okay, if we're going to do that, we're just going to throw it over top of you, and it worked out. Like, Carr had 342 yards passing. So it is a testament to how balanced this offense can be and how they have answers for all kinds of things that defenses are going to throw at them. But still, you want to be able to run the ball more effectively than that, going up against an NC State defense that allowed over 170 rushing yards to the Virginia Tech running back, and Notre Dame's running backs did not get that if you combine Love and Price's production in this game. So that's a real issue. They have to figure out how they can capitalize on these short yardage situations because they have no problem moving the ball on these defenses, whoever they play. Like, it's kind of interesting that the biggest problem that they have is that they are able to move the ball so effectively that they get in the red zone frequently during these games, but then they aren't able to convert once they get in that area. So that is something that they need to address. I'm sure that Marcus Freeman is going to be asked about it plenty this week. He was already asked about it in the postgame. CJ Carr talked about it as well. And they're going to have to figure something out because this is just inexcusable for a group as talented as they are. And look, you're not going to have a perfect game or anything like that every single week, but it's an area they need to address, and they have to do it in a hurry because against USC, you cannot afford to leave points on the board. And they left plenty of points on the board against NC State. They left plenty of points on the board against Boise State. That can't happen going into next week. But I don't want to make it seem like it was all bad on the offense because a couple guys had great games. CJ Carr had a couple miscues, but still finished 342 yards passing. He had the 2 touchdowns and the interception. On the interception, he was just kind of throwing it up there because it was 4th down. He should have done that on that first 4th down that they failed to convert earlier in the game, but instead he ran out of bounds. Can't have that happen in that moment. And Jeremiah Love had 2 more touchdowns in this game. He wasn't able to get any long runs, really. He had a 124-yarder. Jadarian Price had 120-yarder. But they were able to keep him in check. But still, if holding Jeremiah Love in check accounts for 86 yards on 4.8 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns, like, that's still a really good game. And it was a career day for Eli Raridan. Raridan finished with 7 receptions for 109 yards. Still no touchdowns, though. We got to get Eli Raridan in the end zone. The guy deserves it. And after a pretty quiet couple games, they went to him a lot in this game. And Dave Doran was very complimentary of Eli Raridan after the game and said, look, we did not expect him to be able to get behind the defense, and he was able to do exactly that. And when you have a player who is as big as he is, like 6'7", and that athletic, like, you need to be able to target him. Notre Dame did a lot in this game, and it worked out. And CJ Carr's 2 best passes of the game both went to Eli Raridan. He had that one pass in the second quarter when he just dropped it. He perfectly layered the ball. And when he threw it, I almost had a heart attack because I thought it was going to be picked because Raridan had a defender right on him, and then he had a safety crashing down. But CJ Carr floated the ball and dropped it in a bucket in a spot where only Eli Raridan could make the play. I think the defender was surprised that he even threw it because he didn't really do anything to knock it down. But just a great pass. I was so pissed that play didn't amount to anything on that drive because Notre Dame ended up getting stopped on 4th down. But that was one of those throws where we were like, whoa, that's a high-level NFL throw, and that's why people are already talking about CJ Carr being a first-round pick in the 2027 NFL Draft. Then later on in the game, he delivered another dime to Eli Raridan. And on that throw, CJ Carr threw it from about the 45-yard line on the left hash. He's looking downfield, sees Eli Raridan one-on-one, and then throws it almost to the right pylon. So it's traveling over 50 yards in the air. Perfect spiral, lands right where only Eli Raridan can get it, and that's just utilizing the fact that you have a very talented playmaker down the field, and he was there to make a play. But it's those kind of throws that make me so excited about CJ Carr. Like, it's really hard to kind of keep my emotions in check when he's out there making plays like that. And yeah, it wasn't perfect. He was 19 of 31, but you look around college football right now, he's playing as good as any quarterback in the entire country, and they're going to lean on him against USC. So that was a really impressive performance overall by CJ Carr. And again, like, the positives are that the offense is really able to move the ball against every single team they play. They just have to capitalize when they get close to the end zone and when they have these short yardage situations. You cannot afford to leave that many points on the board. But when you look at this group as a whole, I'm still very confident that they're going to be able to put up points on every team they face, and I'm not overly concerned about them yet. They just have plenty to clean up over the course of these next few days before they take on the Trojans. Because look, this could be another track meet. For as good as the defense played and has been playing in the past few weeks, like, USC is loaded with talent on offense. They have Mekhi Lemon, who is one of the best receivers in the country. I mean, I might put Lemon at second right now behind Jeremiah Smith. He is just that good. He had this catch in the end zone where he was like being draped by this Michigan defender, just like flew back, caught it, picked the ball out of the sky. Even the Michigan defender threw up his hands like, dude, what the hell do you want me to do in that situation? And last year, Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane had all kinds of success going up against the Notre Dame secondary, and that was against a unit last year that was top 5 in the country in every statistical category, that Notre Dame defense. So they're going to be tested this week. The offense is going to be tested as well. They're going to have to put up a lot of points on the board, and in order to do that, they're going to have to convert when they have their opportunities. So we talked about the offense, we've talked about the defense, but special teams quietly made a real impact in this game. And I think it's going to matter in a big way moving forward. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we'll answer any questions you have in the chat right after this. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. All right, here's my pick. We do have the Sunday night game coming up, but I'm going to look ahead to Monday night. We got the Commanders against the Bears. I understand that there's a lot of Bears fans listening to the podcast because we have a lot of Chicago viewers and listeners, but I hate to break it to you guys. I'm taking the Commanders minus 5.5 against the Bears on Monday Night Football. The Commanders are at home, and this is a battle between the top two overall picks in last year's NFL Draft, Jane Daniels and Caleb Williams. And Jane Daniels has been a much better player than Caleb Williams so far. I think he's going to be a much better player in the game tomorrow. That's why I like the Commanders minus 5.5. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Today's episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've been putting off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. One of my favorite things about Monarch is you can identify all sorts of things you might miss, like maybe you aren't saving as much as you thought. Monarch helps you notice an inefficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. All right, thanks again for everyone joining this Sunday Night Live. I'm Tyler Wojciak, and I'm the host. We have not normally done live shows on the weekends, but this is our second time doing the Sunday Night Live thing, and appreciate everyone in the comments. Let's see. Justin Noak said the refs called back our interception in the first half. That was really stupid. David Reynoso, we forget CJ Carr, freshman QB, first 5 games. That's very true, and he's only going to get better from here. What else we got here? Yaru RL. I think they spent the first half of this game and Boise State game to experiment. I should say. Don't think it's going to be an issue moving forward. I hope so. The offense looked a lot better in the second half, but also helps when your defense is giving you great field position every single time. All right, let's talk about special teams here because I really wanted to see Noah Burnett get some reps in this game because he's been dealing with that nagging injury, and I felt like even though Notre Dame hasn't needed him recently, they are going to need him going forward, and I didn't want his first kick in weeks to be out there against USC, especially in a pivotal moment. So he went 2 of 2 in this game. He knocked in a 48-yarder at the end of the first half. First of all, great drive by the Notre Dame offense. They didn't have any timeouts. They needed to get in field goal position, and they did. And then Noah Burnett connected on that 48-yarder. That would have been good from 48. That was it. If it was 49 yards, I don't think that ball is getting over the uprights, but it was just enough, and Notre Dame really needed it. They go into half 10-7, and the vibes around that game were much different. Obviously, all the fans were pissed off because of the terrible calls by the officials, but the fact that they were able to go into the half with a lead, I think, was the spark that they needed. Then they came out in the second half. It took them a little bit on offense to really get going, but the defense just locked them down the rest of the game. They ended up outscoring NC State 26-0 in the second half. But I think it was huge for Noah Burnett's confidence to knock in that field goal, even though that wasn't the prettiest one in the world. He ended up coming up big later in the game, had a chip shot field goal, but that one looked pure. And now he is 5 for 5 on the year, and I was worried about him in the offseason, but so far he's delivered despite the fact that he's been dealing with this injury. And it was another great game for James Rendell, the punter. Notre Dame continues to win the field position battle, and Jordan Faison had a nice punt return as well. I thought Jadarian Price would have a chance to return a kick to the house in this game. It did not happen. He had that one chance and then honestly ran right into a defender, which was not typical of him. NC State had been really bad in kickoff coverage all year long, and it just felt like an opportunity for Notre Dame to get a big return. It didn't happen there, but they did convert on a fake punt. And they actually ran, I think, a similar thing early on in the game, and it forced NC State to call a timeout. But once they had that big play to make it 4th and 4 from like the 40-yard line, I was saying like they're gonna run a fake punt here, and they did. Even though NC State was kind of prepared for it, right, when they took James Rendell and then they motioned him out there, and then Notre Dame ran like a normal offensive formation with Tyler Buckner at quarterback. They had Jordan Faison flash as if they were going to run a jet sweep, and then Tyler Buckner just ran for the first down. It wasn't easy. NC State was there, but it was a physical run, and honestly good for Tyler Buckner. It does make you wonder, would they consider using him in these Wildcat situations? Because I'd much rather see him out there than CJ Carr as a lead blocker or whatever they have him doing. And I just think that we've seen it work before. Tyler Buckner has been a quarterback in college football. He was the MVP of Notre Dame's bowl game just a few years ago. And yeah, when you bring CJ Carr and you bring him out and you run Tyler Buckner out there, is it giving it away that you're going to run a trick play? Yeah, probably. But it's not like Notre Dame is having a whole lot of success with their standard offense on these 4th and short and 3rd and short situations anyway. So if that worked with Tyler Buckner on the fake punt, I'd like to see him try it on offense, but I doubt it's going to happen. But overall, it was another great example of Marcus Freeman using the third phase to find an edge. It's something that he does all the time. And we talked all week about how Notre Dame had a serious advantage in special teams because NC State was just bad across the board. I don't know if it's just they don't prioritize it or what, but Notre Dame clearly does. And Notre Dame was able to take advantage of it in this game. And I am sure going up against USC, they are going to have all kinds of fun stuff to throw at USC because, look, ever since Chad Bowden left, Marcus Freeman has been pretty quiet, borderline silent about him leaving and just all the back and forth that's been going on with Notre Dame and USC. It's mostly been on social media, right? Like the USC accounts have been kind of posting their jabs at Notre Dame, like when they got that wide receiver to commit who's a Notre Dame legacy, Mosley. Like they've been doing stuff like that. And I feel like Chad Bowden has been talking to the media a lot, which is something that he never did at Notre Dame. And I feel like the general assumption or the general understanding of Chad Bowden was that he didn't like talking into a microphone. He didn't like being the front-facing guy. But then he went to USC, and then he was doing all kinds of press conferences. He was doing podcast interviews and all this stuff. And it's like, And every single time he does it, he never misses an opportunity to take a jab at Notre Dame or how it'll be like something like, oh, I just want to be at USC. This is a better job. I always wanted to be here. This is the pinnacle of college football and all this stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, I know what you're doing, dude. And I'm sure Marcus Freeman does as well. So Notre Dame is going to empty the kitchen sink against USC. And I think they're going to do that on special teams with different fakes. We might finally see a fake field goal with Tyler Buckner. USC's probably going to expect it, right? They're going to expect Notre Dame to try to run some fake stuff. But look, it seems like Marty Biagi is an endless bag of tricks, and I think they're going to open it up against USC. So this was just another positive development for Notre Dame going into that game against USC. They were able to find an edge in special teams. They took advantage of it, and really happy to see Noah Burnett go out there and convert on a couple field goals because they needed him in this game, and they're going to need him going forward. All right, before we wrap things up, let's take a couple questions here from the chat. N2ND Irish asks, why don't they use Jabron Payne more in the short yardage situations? He was utilized for that situation before he got hurt. It's a good question. I mean, the fact that Jabron Payne was taking away carries from Audric Estime in short yardage situations back in 2023, but it is now unable to find the field this year. I mean, look, Jabron Payne is not the guy I'd really go with. I know he had some success doing it, but it's like you've got Love, you've got Price. You've also got Aeneas Williams, who has been pretty absent from the team ever since he had that injury. I just think that Jaywan Sider much prefers to run a 2 running back rotation. And on the topic of Jaywan Sider, what an incredible decision he made, right? To get out of Dodge, leave Penn State before everything collapsed. And now he's at Notre Dame, and I think a lot of people at Penn State were questioning that decision at the time. Notre Dame fans weren't because they knew that they had a better running back tandem than Penn State did, and it has shown this season. And now Jaywan Sider is coaching Love and Price, and they're having fantastic seasons. And meanwhile, his former boss, James Franklin, is now on the unemployment line. But I got to say, $49 million to not do anything, to not coach, to watch on TV. James Franklin is probably going to be on TV at some point. Like, that's not the worst thing in the world. Maybe the best job in the world is to be a fired college football coach. And I just want to put this out there in the universe. It would maybe be the worst cultural fit imaginable, even worse than Brian Kelly at LSU. But can you imagine how funny it would be if James Franklin became the head coach at Arkansas? Just think about that for a second. Let that marinate. Let that visual creep into your head. Imagine James Franklin doing the Woo Pig Suey chant. Just think about how absurd that would be. And I think it's a real possibility because, like, how many other jobs are out there? If he wants to get right back into coaching, Arkansas is probably the best job out there outside of Penn State. Like, where's he going to go? Virginia Tech? I just don't see that happening. All right, what else we got in the chat here? Oh, we got a nice little compliment. Sorry I'm so stuffy, by the way. I'm sure that's not the best sounding thing ever. That's why we didn't do an instant reaction episode. I've been fighting a cold all week long, and it reached a fever pitch yesterday, and I didn't want to just try to suffer through and do a podcast where no one wanted to listen to my voice. It's a little bit better today, but as you can tell, it's not 100%. Ryan Toussaint says, so happy you did Sunday Night Live. Such an awesome episode. Got to love the experience all our nickels are getting as it could come in handy down the road. Appreciate it. Like doing this. It's fun. It's more interactive. But yeah, I mean, Dallas Golden had that bad miss, and I'm sure that's been on his mind lately. But Dallas Golden got a lot better as the game went on. I would obviously love for Devontae Smith to be back against USC to cover Mekhi Lemon because he is a slot receiver. If Notre Dame ever has Dallas Golden out there guarding Mekhi Lemon one-on-one with no safety help, it's probably not going to go super well for Dallas Golden in that situation. But you're right. It's good that Dallas Golden is getting some valuable experience. I think he's going to end up being a really good player. The fact that they already trust him in these situations tells you a lot about the type of player he is, and he's a really good athlete. And he made some nice plays. Like, he's good at tackling, and you got to remember, like, Dallas Golden didn't play any nickel until, I think, the week of the Purdue game. Like, he had been out at field, and then they had to bring him in once Devontae Smith went down, and they decided to bench Carson Hobbs. But, yeah, it's very good for him to be out there and make some plays, even if we're going to have to deal with some loud misses. And look, he was out there on an island, didn't have a ton of help, and he almost tracked it down. And it didn't happen, but still happy to see him out there. All right, what else we got here? W Will, I could watch hour-long episodes this week. Big game for sure. We're going to hover around the 30-minute mark on this show. I know that there are some other shows that like to do them much longer, and sometimes we get into that 40-minute range, but we like to keep them, around 30 minutes, so that way on your morning commute, if you have one, you get to listen to the entire episode, or, it's not too long. But we're going to have all kinds of great content coming your way the rest of this week, and honestly, I think that's a good place for this show to end. Thank you, everyone, for joining the chat, for joining the show live. Again, this is only the second time we've ever done this Sunday Night Live show, and if you're watching or listening on Monday morning, thanks again for making this your first watch or listen of the day. If you have not already, be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube and follow the show for free on your favorite podcast app, and drop a comment after the show with feedback, or hit me up on social media. Like, what do you want to see on these Sunday Night Live shows going forward? Do you want guests? Do you want different talking points, a little bit more interactive, more like a mailbag? Like, we're still testing out this idea, to be completely honest. I want to make it more fun and more interactive than our normal Monday morning shows. So I'm going to be back on Tuesday with Luke Smith, as we do every single week. We're going to share our final thoughts on the win against NC State, and then we're going to turn the page to USC. I'm going to have my full preview coming out on Wednesday, and then on Thursday we're going to have a guest to talk about the game a little bit more, and then we got the mailbag coming up on Friday. So remember, get your questions in. I'm sure we're going to have all kinds of questions about USC this week, and you can drop your questions in the YouTube comments. You can submit them on social media. The X account is at Locked On Irish, and the Instagram is at Locked On Irish Pod. But we have a lot of great stuff coming your way. Thank you again for joining me here on Sunday Night Live. I will see you on Tuesday.